I'm John Batchelor. Thaddeus McCotter, recovering politician, is with me from WJR in Michigan. Recovering politician, correct, Thaddeus?
Or recovering Congress bum, however you can phrase it.
All right, fine, yes. A man who is skilled in politics, party politics, but politics as practiced in Washington and in Michigan. We welcome our professionals, Lara Brown of George Washington University and Salena Zito of the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review, and I've warned them, Thaddeus, I'm going to go right at the subject, so I begin with you, Salena. Is the party over? Both parties, Salena, done. Past, our history in museums, Republicans, Democrats, gone. Has it happened, Salena?
Well, no, I don't believe that they're gone forever, and I don't believe that they belong in museums. But what you do see in the latest Gallup tracking polls, and you've seen it since 2006, that people are moving away from party identity. That is, they don't say, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat, and they'll identify themselves as a conservative or a progressive or, even a libertarian. But along with that sentiment, they have changed their registration to independent, and it's been the most historic leap towards identifying themselves as independent voters. Now, having said that, while they have moved their label or their brand away from both parties because it's sort of this just overwhelming distrust and disgust and dismay with Washington, D.C. and politics in general, they have not lost their ideologies. They are still, conservative at heart or progressive at heart. They're just not happy with the brand right now.
All right, let me try Lara on this, Salena, and then I'll turn you over to the recovering politician, and you can fence. Lara, party's over, right? It's done. My elephant, I should put him out to pasture.
No, you should not. I will tell you that Salena is right that people don't like to identify with a party. They don't like to associate, and that's really what we mean by this. But quite frankly, what we have seen in the last really 15 years is an incredible increase in partisan behavior. So what that means is that more people essentially vote a straight ballot. They do not split their tickets. We see our states, if you will, becoming both redder and bluer, and that is a result of that. We also have seen essentially more and more polarization on issue positions, as well as sort of when we ask about politicians and they are of opposite parties. So people actually react more ardently and stridently as partisans when they are actually having to decide something. But then when you ask them, are you a member of a party or do you identify as a party, as Salena said, they are so phenomenally sort of fed up with the perceptions and what is going on in Washington. When Congress has 13% approval rating and the president is just barely skimming the 40% mark, people don't want to be associated or affiliated with these parties.
Thaddeus?
But what is a party? In the past, a party was a repository of hope. Today, they seem to be more just vehicles of ambition or megaphones for grievances. And while what our professionals are talking about, Lara and Salena, is accurate, what you have to look at, though, is the ways that the parties have evolved into highly centralized, monetized, hollow entities, which leave no room for the average grassroots person necessarily to actually go and invest time, invest energy, and again make it a repository of hope. Would you agree with that?
I want to turn that to Salena because I agree with it. Go ahead, Salena.
Well, I agree with the monetary part, and Republicans aren't, or Democrats aren't losing essentially their people. Again, those ideologies are in place, and people still wear their ideology sort of as like a team shirt, right? I'm on the red team or I'm on the blue team. But in terms of, so neither party has lost, who is aligned with them. But what they are losing, and I firmly believe that they'll get it back, because nothing is really ever permanent in our political system. I do right now that the brand for each party is tarnished, but I also believe that will change again.
Lara?
Well, this is also part and parcel of what we have basically considered to be ideological sorting. Generally, over the last 30 years, essentially, conservatives have moved into the Republican Party and liberals have moved into the Democratic Party. And as a result, there is an actual ideological gap in the spectrum that now exists between the parties that didn't used to be there. There used to be overlap. There were liberal Republicans and there were conservative Democrats. So the problem is, as that gap has grown, it is easier to do this team identity and, as sort of Salena was mentioning, this kind of demonization of the red shirt or the blue shirt. And so we are in a place where it is not just, if you will, the leadership of the parties. It is all the way through the electorate, and yet people sort of are reviled to think that they are a piece of this puzzle, and they want it just to be Washington. But quite frankly, Washington reflects our actual public.
Thaddeus, asking you, because you've seen it from the inside, way from the inside. You remember the Republican House leadership those years under George W. Bush. The question here is, does Congress look down on us because we don't get it or because we want something to happen? Are we regarded as rubes? That's carny talk.
Yes, I'm familiar with carny talk. No, John, I served in Congress. But the way that they tend to view the public is as a problem to be managed, rather than people to be engaged as sovereign citizens to work and to lead together. So when they talk about the Tea Party, or they talk about the other party, or they talk about any type of issue, their general feeling is that they're doing a wonderful job, they're just misunderstood, and how do they massage the message so they can manage their way out of it?
And misunderstood, you mean that we don't understand the complexity, we demand partisanship, we are happy with inaction? I don't understand misunderstood. I misunderstand all the time. That's the nature of my business. But how does Congress think I misunderstand?
Look, I'm with you. The bottom line is the worst thing that anybody could ever say in Washington was, you'd ask them a simple question and they'd say, well, it's a really complex issue, which was their way of saying you're too stupid to understand what I'm going to tell you as an excuse for why I didn't get the job done. The problem that these people have out there is that they tend to feel sorry for themselves when they can't get anything done, and they'd rather than look in the mirror and blame themselves, John, what they do is they blame the public for not understanding what they're trying to do,
all right,
which is wrong.
Lara, let me push you on this. It's easier to be partisan than it is to work together, isn't it, Lara? Much easier.
Well, it is, and the issue is that the party brands tend to act like, we call them heuristics. They are essentially shortcuts for people to understand where another person sits and views an issue. And so we know that essentially if you tell me your party ID, I, with about 90% certainty, can predict where you are going to vote. So unfortunately, these party labels do become these kind of shortcuts for engagement for all participants, both the voters as well as the elected officials. And I couldn't agree with Thaddeus more that at some place the tough work really comes in actually having the conversation about what you're doing and not just resorting to talking points or, sound bites. The people can be trusted with ideas, and I think the leaders also have to be trusted with governance.
Salena, I'm a Republican in a Democratic town in a Democratic state. I know lots of Democrats. I work with them. They're okay. I guess I can't get elected as a Republican. Is that right, Salena?
Well, you're in New York. Your governor was conservatives there, right?
That's a new development because he's running for president. You take my point. If, as a Republican, and I come from the East, you all know I'm a liberal Republican. Everybody understands it, but it's an antique. It's from the 20th century. It doesn't have any meaning. I might as well talk about TR these days to talk about what the liberal Republican strain is in the 20th century. Here in the 21st century, I'm required to wear a coat that doesn't fit me, Salena. It never did fit me.
Right, and that's why voters aren't fitting in these. They're square pegs and they're not fitting in the round holes. I don't have all the parts of the brand, and the brand is becoming more and more strident, and it's in Washington it doesn't do anything. So I'm sort of wiping off the brand and just being independent. But your ideology hasn't changed. More than likely, most of the time, you're going to vote Republican, even though, you don't fit in everyone's perfect sort of description of what a Republican is.
We have with us a man who ran in a purple district many times. In fact, your district was mostly blue, wasn't it, Thaddeus?
Well, that was a matter of debate, but it certainly was one of those swing districts that would go back and be a target seat, and then it would drop off, and you get lucky and miss it. But the one thing that I would like to bring to Lara and Salena for their comment is, we've talked a lot about the inter-party warfare. What's new, I think, especially on the Republican side, is the intra-party warfare, where with the rhino labels, with the pro-labor labels, with whatever type of labels, you're seeing a battle within the Republican Party that you had never seen before. And it ties back with like the Jim Gerlachs of the world who we've talked about, whereby the moderation, the John Batchelor type Republicans feel not only pressured by the Democrats, but also by their own Republican peers.
30 seconds, Lara, and then 30 seconds for you, Salena. Go ahead, Lara.
Sure. This was actually exactly what we saw between Gerald Ford and Ronald Reagan in the late 70s and the early 80s. This is actually a very common thing when parties are trying to get into power.
Salena?
Right. Exactly, and there's just a larger megaphone now in social media, so you hear about it more. But this is a fairly common occurrence, and you see it mostly when a party is down and it's bringing itself back up.
Lara Brown of George Washington University, she blogs at U.S. News and World Report. Salena Zito of the Pittsburgh Tribune Review, who writes daily, and Thaddeus McCotter of Livonia. That's the 11th District of Michigan. He is in Detroit tonight at WJR, the great voice of the Great Lakes. And John Batchelor, here in the 21st century, I'll be a Republican long after there's no more solar system. This is the John Batchelor Show.